got one right now, but I just like to hear myself talk sometimes. So here we are. Also, if you saw my room, it's messy because my cat knocked over a bunch of stuff last night. For whoever may watch this in the future, but mostly me. I don't know, or my son when he's older. But I don't have to go into work till 10 today. I got a little bit of time till then. I got about uh, 45 minutes to an hour till I have to leave. So I figured I'd get on live, maybe do a little bit of painting before work. Not gonna lie, I kind of woke up feeling like in a weird mood this morning. My sleep was actually pretty decent, actually, like surprisingly. But I don't know, I was just in kind of a weird mood this morning, and I don't know, walking Aiden to school today. I was talking to one of my mom friends with her son Aiden, and it was just like talking about how grateful she was that they have like all these awesome music programs and everything for the kids at school. And I just like started feeling really like grateful too, and that's kind of put me in a better mood. And I just wanted to like share that because I think sometimes we don't realize that sharing our own like gratitude can help others feel grateful too, and can like really shift their moods as well. So if you're feeling grateful or anything, it's good to like share it with others, you know? So I just wanted to share that. But yeah, I was watching this video this morning about this guy, like, okay, what's his name? Conkle or something, and how he helped this guy Dakota. I don't know. I was a Kiwi Tapes video, but got me thinking about how there are some people out there that like no matter how much you help them, it's not enough. The kind of people that will just like take, and I don't know. It's sad because a lot of times when we want to help people like improve their lives and stuff, obviously there's a lot of people that like they will take that and they will do better, but then there are those people out there that when you help them, it's like they expect it, and it's like the more you help them, the more you have to help them, and the less it helps them in actuality, if that makes sense. And it's just got me thinking about my relationship with my ex, how like I really did so much for him. Helped him get like a surgery he really needed, had to help him get his insurance in the first place because he didn't have any, helped him find jobs, build a resume, like all this stuff. And it just in the end still like wasn't enough for him. It was like nothing I did was good enough. He in the end, like towards the end of our relationship, he actually even sabotaged my help, which is just so odd to me. Um, but I really am thankful for all of it and even the bad parts of it because it really taught me a lesson that, like, there are some people that are in a bad way because they got themselves there and they did nothing to get themselves out of it. Like the video I was watching from Kiwi Tapes, like, this dude bought him like multiple phones, multiple like pairs of glasses, and got him into an apartment, helped him get his ID. And it made me think about how like I also helped my ex like get his ID, get his birth certificate, get his social security card, like all this stuff. And he's still like the guy Dakota still like left a free apartment, or maybe it wasn't free, I don't know, but he left the apartment to go be in a hotel room with his girlfriend who was like cheating on him. And it's like that dude like really went out of his way, did not have to do any of that for a stranger, and he kind of just spit in his face with it, leaving a whole ass apartment when he was homeless before, like, and then to go be homeless again with like some chick who didn't even treat him right. And it's interesting. But it's made me think too about like what are the times where I was offered help and squandered it. And I'm sure I can't think of anything right this second off the top of my head, but I'm sure there must have been times because, like I said, I feel like there are some times where like people are in a bad situation because they aren't willing to put forth the work to get out of it. Like I know with myself emotionally, like there was a lot of times where I was just like stuck in identifying as like a really sad person or like a messed up person and it kept me there because I wasn't ready to move on from it, you know, like no matter what anyone would have done for me hypothetically, like I would have just stayed there because I wasn't ready to move on emotionally. I had to go through my like years and years of therapy and decide to get out of that spot on my own, you know. Now, granted, too, I mean, this isn't to say don't help people because definitely help is honestly the stepping stone people need to do better sometimes. Like, if I hadn't been helped out by my dad with housing and been homeless, like, things would have been a lot harder, you know. So I like I don't think I've squandered the opportunity to have housing or anything like that. I think I take really good care of my dad's house and I do a lot of his chores for him if I'm being perfectly honest. I've learned how to like become more responsible with bills and stuff, you know. Granted I don't cover all the bills here. I couldn't afford it, but you know. So there are lots of people like obviously if you help them, yeah, it's great and it gets them on their feet and whatnot. But then there are just some people that like you can give them literally a free apartment and everything they need and it still won't be enough because they can't maintain that like self-care. And it's really hard I think to have that discernment to know who's going to take the help and grow from it and who's going to squander it, you know. Maybe it's just something that comes with experience. Maybe it's something you can never really know. But I'm sure there have got to be some kinds of like warning signs. But I think sometimes too people will stay lost in the sunk cost fallacy of like, oh, I've given so much to this person. I need to see them get out of whatever situation they're in. Because I know I felt that with my ex. I was like, I've put in so much time, energy, love, resource, like money into this person, and I want it to turn out well, but it clearly just like was not. And at some point I had to accept like it's not going to get any better. He like I don't know, like I had set him up with a psychiatrist or maybe a therapist towards the end of our relationship, and he just purposely missed the appointments over and over and over and had to pay all these fees, and I was covering these fees and he was just still missing the appointments. And it was like, dude, I had to eventually look at myself and be like, look, it doesn't matter how much money or time I sank into this, I don't need to keep putting time and money into this. It's foolish and insane to keep doing something when you already know how it's going to turn out and it's not going to turn out the way you want it. And you know, just continuing on hoping that something will magically change is foolish, you know. I think sometimes we commit to the sunk cost fallacy because we don't want to look foolish without realizing that doing so is what is making us the fool, you know? It's just hard finding that discernment to know when your help is actually going to help someone and when it's just going to never be enough, you know? And it's sad that there's people like that, but I don't know. I just feel a lot of like pity for it. Oh, hi. I don't know what any of that means. um, yeah, I'm just babbling and painting. I don't know. It would be awesome if everyone who got like amazing help from people was able to just take that and like make the best of it. But I mean, realistically, that's just not always how life works, you know? But it's also made me think about, you know, the next time I do receive help to get somewhere to like make sure that I don't take it for granted and I don't squander it, you know? Because I know that there are lots of awesome people out there that help others, and the more other people take that kind of stuff for granted, I feel like the kind of less likely normal people are to want to go and do like amazing acts of kindness, you know, because they see like, oh, not everyone is going to make it, you know, worth it. But I guess really what is worth it besides subjective, right? There's also another part of me that believes like kindness is always worth it, even if the other person makes nothing of it. Because it's not about being kind, isn't about what the other person can make of it. It's about you being kind and wanting to give kindness, you know? And in that regard, I think that like kindness and love is never a waste, even if the person doesn't appreciate it or do anything productive with the kindness and love you give them, because you can still know that like that's the kind of person you are And, you know, really it tests your own, like, I guess, what's the word, motivations for being kind. Because some people are, like, kind to, like, get things from others or to, like, make themselves feel like they're, like, a worthwhile person, to get, like, that validation from others. And it's illuminating when you are like subconsciously, I was going to say secretly, but more like subconsciously trying to get external validation with your kindness, and then it's not returned. You really can tell that was your motivation when, like, you become unkind over it, you know. And I do think that, you know, there's that age old question of, like, are people ever truly altruistic? Because does it not make you feel like a good person to do good things, and is that not a little bit selfish? Right. um I'm not sure where I fall on that. I think people have been debating about that for years and years, and I'm surely not going to solve it. But it does make me wonder. And I think as long as we aren't cruel after our kindness is squandered, then it doesn't really matter if we did it because it made us feel good, you know, like, to still be good for the sake of, you know, that being our identity, I think is enough. And maybe it's a little selfish because it makes us feel like good people. As long as we're not, like, lording that over others, or, like, using that to, like, manipulate people, I think it's all right, you know? I don't know why my brush strokes are so heavy today and thick. I'm not liking it. Mullet wisdom. I want to start a series now called Mullet Wisdom. You know, I hated mullets for so I still kind of hate mullets, I'm not gonna lie, but I have one, and it looks probably terrible on me. I don't really care. I really just, like, I had my head shaved for like a decade, and I learned that I don't like hair in my face, but my neck gets cold. So I don't know. This was a mullet of necessity. Mullet wisdom. I'm seriously gonna, like, name one of my videos that. I love that. It's hilarious. I feel like I'll need, like, a natty light in my hand though. uh, yeah, I definitely have this, like, subconscious belief that, like, mullets are a bit rednecky, and I don't really consider myself a redneck at all. Um, but it's funny. I find myself with a mullet after hating on them for so long. Just goes to show, you know. I don't know what it goes to show. I don't know. How's that for wisdom? I can't decide if I want to fill up all these spots with lines. If you guys want to look. I don't know if you can see. I started off this painting with a lot of, like, curved lines that were thick, and I was like, don't like that, and made them all kind of straight. But then I was like, now it's, like, too rigid, so I've been adding, like, curvier lines inside. I like this so far. This painting reminds me of another painting I did that I titled Starburst because it was all the Starburst colors. And it was kind of a juicy contradiction. I think this one's kind of a juicy contradiction too, with the straight lines bold and then the curvy lines small. Don't know if it's a juicy contradiction. I'm not sure how one makes a painting juicy. Not sure I want to know. But yeah, I'm feeling a lot more grateful than I really woke up feeling. And I don't know why I kind of woke up in such a blah mood. Maybe it's the rain. Because I actually got pretty decent sleep last night, which I don't usually get good sleep. But we had such a long day yesterday that I just, like, passed out at like 9 p.m. Yeah, I don't know if you guys watch Kiwi Tapes at all, though. I'm still thinking about that. I'm glad that guy was so, like, you know, kind to those people, but it's just really sad that they like squandered it all, you know? Like, how many pairs of glasses can you buy a person before you stop, you know, and realize that they're not going to take care of their glasses enough and they're just going to keep breaking? Which is interesting, the glasses part specifically, because I feel like I also helped my ex-fiance get like multiple pairs of glasses because he would either like lose them or break them, and it's just like, oh, how do we find the warning signs of when a person is going to actually benefit from our help, or just take it for granted? And how do we determine if a person is in a bad situation because of their own unwillingness to change, or just because of bad circumstances? Because some people do end up in crap situations through no fault of their own. When I was homeless in San Francisco, I met a number of people who were on the street simply because they were mentally ill, and all of their family that had helped take care of them before had passed away because they were, older. And so it's just like they were left with nothing and no one to like care for them besides the state. And, you know, as great as California is, the state in general is not a real person. They can't actually give personable care to mentally ill individuals that need it, A lot of people who like struggle with things like schizophrenia and stuff like that, they need like a different kind of care. You can't just tell them what to do. There's a lot of mental things sometimes that will go into a person who's struggling with like a schizophrenic break. It's not as simple as saying, hey, you're delusional. I'm not gonna listen to that. But it's sad though. I know that helping people with homelessness is always going to be like this multifaceted approach, and there's never going to be a one size fits all, because people become homeless for a huge, infinite multitude of reasons. I do wish there was more help for people struggling, especially when it comes down to things like mental health and things like that. I've also known too, like, people that were homeless that ran away from like really abusive homes, and they were still like minors, and they were homeless. And I don't think that that's any fault of their own. And so I wish we had more help for people like that too. Makes me wonder though, like, where is there a line where someone crosses into like, being where they just need to like work on their own things to help themselves, or I don't know. Helping people who don't want to help themselves is a really heartbreaking thing, though. Because you just want good for them, and then to see them not want good for themselves, it's sad. I don't know much about Islam. I enjoy learning about a lot of different faiths. So if you want to share anything about it, I'm always open to hear. I technically consider myself omnist, where I find value in every religion that does not actively hurt others, right? Like, I don't agree with cults or anything like that. But I think all the ways that humans have found to honor the divine and love their fellow human have a lot of merit and are intrinsically valuable in their own way. I do think a lot of times actions speak louder than belief. So regardless of what a person believes in, I think what matters most is how you treat others, how you treat yourself, how you find peace and acceptance for the things beyond your control. And I know that many people need religion to do these things, and so I don't knock that at all. But I also recognize that not everyone needs religion to do that. So I appreciate that as well. I hold nothing against atheists or agnostics. I was agnostic for a while, and then I was also staunchly atheist for quite a long time. And it's only recently that I've really been recontextualizing my spiritual identity for myself. And it's been a process for sure. I do think that there's something interesting about the human psyche needing reassurance that there is something larger than themselves to find like existential peace, you know? Like, why does that happen? I would love to know why. Um, I find it immensely interesting. I think it's maybe because the self-aware person sees just how like flawed and small they are, and so the idea that life is only made up of beings like us is a bit depressing. And so humans have since we had thought and language have conceptualized of something larger and more powerful than ourselves, something kinder, more forgiving, more wise. And I think it's great. But I do think that obviously, you know, as all of us know, all religions have, I think, at some point in time been tainted by those who want to use it for power or to they're corrupt and want to hurt others, you know. And I think obviously that's terrible, but Mm, yeah, religion. It's a heck of a thing, ain't it? I think for a long time, the like problems of humanity made me really depressed, and I felt like because I'm part of humanity, you know, that like their problems were my problems. But after years of therapy, I've come to realize that that was the major like reason that was causing me depression is because that isn't actually my responsibility. Like, granted, you know, it is my responsibility to uphold my ideals for humanity for myself, but it will never be my responsibility to change the world like that. Like, no one can change all of the humans, you know? There's always going to be cruel people, I think, and there's always going to be such nuance that it confuses us all. And I think maybe for myself, part of my peace journey is just learning to like accept it without condoning it and without letting it make me like sad and angry, you know? That's a hard thing to do. I've been really big on trying to hold paradox for myself without letting it cause me unrest or distress. I'm trying to find peace in paradox without looking for immediate resolution or resolution in general of it. Um, Being able to sit with ideas where one thing is completely true and the opposite also is, you know? It's a difficult process, though, I think. Probably for most people. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm only me. Hmm. Trying to see what piece I want to do next. I kind of work all over the place. Turning the canvas round and round. I'm so grateful to have a place to like work on art and time to do so. I don't have to go into work till 10 today. I'm freaking stoked. And I have a couple days off. But then next week I'm gonna have my 5 a.m. mornings. It'll be nice that I have work done by like 10 a.m. I'm so excited for Christmas. It's odd reaching a point in my life where like I had the thought today. I was like, man, I kind of hope my dad got me socks for Christmas. Is that what being an adult is? Just like wanting socks for Christmas? I do though. I need some new socks. If he didn't get me socks for Christmas, I'm gonna have to buy myself some socks. I really like this sock company called Bombas because for every pair you buy, they donate a pair, and I love that. But the socks are really fucking expensive, so I can't often afford to buy them. Um, on Amazon, it's like $24 for a pair, so they're clearly upcharging because I went to the Bombas website and it's like $17 for a pair of the same socks. But still, $17 for a pair of socks is ridiculous. Most of my life, I just bought Dollar Tree socks, which is like 3 pairs for $1, which I guess Dollar Tree charges $1.25 now, but still, quite the price difference. But I will say, the Bombas socks that I have lasted for like 5 years without getting holes in them. So that's saying something because I only have like maybe like 10 pairs that I had been wearing for the last like 5 years over and over again. Now, granted, I don't wear socks a lot in the summer, so that is also a thing. But still, I feel like that's like a long time for socks to last. My son's socks do not last that long, and he even has like some Nike socks and stuff. I'm just like, geez. But he's also, I guess, an 11-year-old boy, so he's probably a bit more rough on his feet than I am. But I do stand at work all day, so I don't know. And not just stand, I walk around and stuff too. Cheers to the one person still watching. It's honestly so fascinating to me that anyone watches me on my lives. I kind of just do this so that I don't feel crazy talking to myself. I don't think I'm very interesting though. You know, I learned the other day, I watched this video. Some people don't have an inner monologue, and I'm low key like super jealous because I don't shut up in my head all day. Like, half the reason I'll watch TV or doom scroll is to get that inner monologue to stop. Like, I can't even really imagine not having one. I mean, there are times, of course, like I do have different kinds of thoughts that are not words. And I tried to explain that to my son. He said he doesn't have that. So I don't know if, like, how many people have both kinds of, like, thoughts, the inner monologue thoughts where it's, like, verbal. And then I also have thoughts that are, like, pre-verbal, I guess. Like, I can translate them into thought, but they don't originally come in words, you know? It's just interesting, though, to think about. Like, how do you read in your head without an inner monologue? Like, I don't. One person answered that question saying that they just like will mouth the words without like saying them, so it's like they are reading it out loud without like making sound, I guess, which I thought was interesting. It's also interesting to like, it made me think of like people with aphantasia where they can't conjure up mental images, which is also fascinating to me. I am less jealous of that though because I like my ability to create things in my head, but it's still fascinating to me. Like, I don't know how I would, because I can see 3D objects in my head and like rotate them and stuff. Like the thing they'd say, like to like, you know, describe if you have aphantasia or whatever, they're like, okay, imagine an apple in your head. If you can't do that, you probably have aphantasia. But to like, you know, see the different levels of like, I guess mental imagery that people have. Some people will think of like a 2D apple. Some people think of like a 3D one. Me personally, ever since I heard about that, like, I guess experiment or thought experiment, whenever someone says think of an apple, I think of this like golden delicious, like rotating, shimmery, waxed apple. And I can see it really well in my mind. Which is so interesting because I can't draw shadows or 3D depth for shit as an artist. So it's like, how can I make that in my head? But I've always been able to make things in my head that I could not make in real life with my hands. That's why it would be so cool if, like, one day we had technology that could take my mental imagery and make it into, like, a printed out version or something. But yeah, it's so wild to me that some people, like, can't create mental images or like don't have an internal monologue, because both of these things are honestly like large components of my inner world. I mean, the way I get myself to sleep a lot of times is by like creating a whole story, plot, and scenario and watching it play out like a movie in my head. Like, I don't know what I'd do if I couldn't do that. Probably be insomniacs. Be an insomniac. Oh shit. That was a curved line. And I didn't want it to be curved. I read about this Japanese artist who started having visual hallucinations when she was like a child, and she started painting all the like dots she saw. Now I don't know if this story is true because I just read it on a Facebook post, and God knows that there's so many fake AI stories out there, you don't really know what to believe. But I liked the story, regardless of its veracity or not, because it talked about how she entered into the art world as a Japanese woman with severe, mental illness, and she just like didn't let any of those things that society told her would stop her. She didn't let them stop her. And said that she still like is in a psychiatric facility as like an elderly woman painting and stuff, and that she like voluntarily checked herself in there and stuff. But I don't know. It got me thinking about like the ways in which so many of us will let society dictate what we can or can't do, and then how I can personally like kind of relate to the story, not necessarily being like a Japanese woman in the 70s or anything like that, but the limitations that either society or the people in our lives try to place on us. And so many times I feel like I've listened to that. And then there's also been the inverse where like people tell me what I'm capable of and I put that limitation on myself. And it's just made me think about, what if I didn't do that to myself? What if I didn't listen to what the expectations of me are externally that I've adopted internally and all these kinds of things? Where would I be? How different would my life be? Makes me think of, the idea that maybe there's infinite paths out there for all of us when we're born, and as we slowly make choices over life, some doors close and others open, and it's just interesting. You never really know which one decision it was that shaped, a particular outcome for you, we really do live in a world of infinite possibility, and the limitations come from our beliefs about ourselves and about what we're capable of. You know, I think even though I've really tried to expand my idea of what my artistic potential is, I recognize that there's still a lot of limiting beliefs. Like in the back of my mind, I truly like fully believe like no, I'll never be like a famous painter. It's always just going to be like a hobby. And sure, that's the most realistic outcome, but at the same time too, if I didn't believe that, how much harder would I go for my art? You know, would that make the difference of being able to really like become well known or even mildly like locally well known, you know? I do think that it definitely does hold me back. There's been a lot of artistic opportunities that I didn't invest in because I didn't feel like investing in myself. I thought it would be like worthless, you know, or come up disappointing. And you know, how many of those opportunities maybe would have worked out well if I would have taken that chance, you know? Instead of just being like, oh, $40 for a vendor fee, and no, I'm not gonna make that much, like I'm just not gonna do it. That's gonna end up costing me. Maybe I could have made like a couple $100 or something, you know? And so it's really made me rethink the limitations I put on myself, you know. But I'm a diehard skeptic, no matter how much I want to not be. Um, but I gotta make sure I don't cross the line from skeptic to cynic, you know, which is a difficult thing to discern for me. I think I definitely was cynical a lot of my life. So coming out of cynicism into like gratitude and self faith can be a really tricky task. Sometimes those little leaps of faith to try to do the impossible end up being super profitable. And I know it's not realistically what happens most of the time, but I don't know. I had my first art show this year, and I do think that maybe I'm capable of being in more, you know? Even if I do have to pay some kind of like, you know, fee or commission fee or whatever, like vendor fee, I don't know. But maybe it would be worth it. Maybe even just the networking aspect of it would be worth it. Meeting other people that I could make cool art with. Maybe it doesn't turn into financial gain. Maybe it turns into social gain or like even spiritual gain in a sense because I meet people that like, you know, share similar values or something, you know? We just never know what the outcomes will be. Unfortunately, I'm not psychic. It would be really cool if I was. I definitely have intuition, but that's not really the same thing. um, so, you know, I just never know how things will turn out unless I go and try them. What's that quote? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Sorry, I've been on an office kick lately. But yeah. I definitely have been in a contemplative mood. I think that's kind of what the end of the year does to a lot of people. You know, we think about how we spent the last 365 days and what are the possibilities for the next 365 days. It's kind of a time of examining culminations of efforts, and I think it should also be an examination of where our beliefs have limited our potential, too. Oh, I gotta head out soon, so I'm gonna put this black paint back in here. I just felt like squirted out way too much. I don't know what I was thinking.
here is what I got done.
I know it looks yellow on screen, but this is like a gold color in real life.
All right. Thanks to everyone who watched, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.